Hey everyone, welcome back to this master series on learning coding patterns. I know that I owe an apology that I haven't posted any videos for the past couple of days. I was stuck in some personal matter, and for that I just can say I'm sorry. I am truly sorry, and I hope from now on I'll try my best to stay consistent and consistently upload videos. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you will forgive me for my inconsistency. And thank you so much for all the appreciation, for all the motivation. I mean, your support means a lot to me, so thank you so much. I'm truly grateful to you guys. And now let's jump towards today's question. So today we are going to solve question number 75 of LeetCode, which is sort colors. Now for the past questions we were using 2-pointer approach, but here for this question we are going to use 3-pointers approach. Now before jumping towards what the question is asking and how we are going to solve this question, I have a question for you. So if you know which country's flag is this, please mention this in the comments, because why I'm asking this question, because this country's flag is very important here, because this flag basically this flag is the name of an algorithm that we are going to use for solving this question. So if you know the country's flag, that which country this flag belongs to, please mention it in the comments. Okay, so now let's jump towards the question. So if you simplify the question in simple words, the question is asking that given an array, you have to sort that array without of using any library, even the built-in one. So you have to sort an array. Okay, now our goal is to use O of n time complexity and just O of 1 space complexity. That's it. Okay, so this is the goal. We have to sort an array with O of n time complexity and O of 1 space complexity. Now Ali, how we are going to solve this question? So we are given this array. Now we are going to use 3 pointers. So the pointers are also of the same color, just to give you a hint. So here we have P0, P1, P2, blue, white and red. So blue, white and red. Okay, now how we are going to approach this question and how we are going to solve it. So what we are going to do is that we are first going to initialize P0 and P1 at the 0 index, and we are going to initialize P2 at the very last index. So P2 will point towards the very last element of the array. Okay, now we are going to use P0 for 0, and we are going to use P2 for 2s. So P0 will keep a reference of zeros, and P2 will keep a reference of 2s. But what about P1? So P1 is going to be used for the main traversal part. Now what about the main traversal? So we are going to check all the conditions with P1. So if let's say P1 will be pointing towards 2, then what will happen? We are simply going to swap 2 with whatever the element P2 will be pointing towards, and then we will move P2 one step towards left side. So you can say one step backwards. And let's say if the P1 is pointing towards 0, so what will happen? Then we are simply going to swap whatever P1 will be pointing towards with whatever the element P0 will be pointing towards. So we are going to swap both of these elements, and then we are going to move P0 one step forward and P1 one step forward as well. Now finally, let's say P1 is neither pointing towards 2 or 0, which means like 1. So if that will be condition, then we will simply ignore it and we will move P1 one step forward. Okay, so this is how things are going to work. Now I know a vague image of an algorithm is now getting created in your minds. So let's see how the traversal will occur and how the operations will be performed, so that you can clearly understand how this algorithm is going to work. Okay, so here we have P1, and P1 is pointing towards this 2. We said if P1 will be pointing towards 2, what we will do, we will swap this element that P1 is pointing towards with the element that P2 is pointing towards. So right now P1 is pointing towards this 2 and P2 is pointing towards this 0. So we will simply put 2 here and we will replace or swap this 0 here and 2 here. Cool. Now what we will do, we will move P2 one step backwards. Okay, P1 will stay here, P0 will stay here. Now if P1 is pointing towards 0, in this condition it is pointing towards 0, so what will happen, we will simply swap this element that P1 is pointing towards with the element that P0 is pointing towards. Now in this scenario, both P1 and P0's both of them are pointing towards the same element. So what we are going to do, we are simply going to move one step forward. We are simply going to move P1 one step forward and P0 one step forward. Now P1 is again pointing towards 0, so what we will do, we will simply move P1 one step forward and P0 one step forward. Why? Because P1 was also pointing towards 0, P0 was also pointing towards 0. Okay, now in this scenario we can see that P1 is pointing towards the element 2. Now P0's role is not present here. Now P1 is pointing towards 2, so what we will do, we will swap this 2 with whatever the element P2 is pointing towards, that is 1. So let's bring P2 here, let's bring 1 here and P2 here. Cool. Now what we will do, we will move P2 one step backwards. Cool. Now let's check what P1 is pointing towards. So P1 is pointing towards this 1. Now as I said earlier, if P1 will be pointing towards 1, what will happen, we will simply ignore that element and we will move one step forward. So P1 got moved one step forward, but P0 will stay there. Okay, because we haven't found 0 at this position. Now P1 is pointing towards 0. Now here is the case that P1 is pointing towards 0. So what we will do, we will swap this P1, this element that P1 is pointing towards with the element that P0 is pointing towards, which is that one. So what will happen, we will bring 0 here, we will bring 1 here, and let's put 0 here. Okay, and P0 will move one step forward and P1 will move one step forward. Okay, now what is happening, P1 is pointing towards this 1, and as I said earlier that if P1 will be pointing towards 1, we will simply ignore that element and we will move P1 one step forward. So P1 will be moved at this position. Now what will happen here, if P1 will cross P2, what will happen, we will simply break our loop, and eventually what we will get our sorted array, where you can see zeros are coming for at the initial position, and then one is followed by zeros, and then twos are followed by ones. So this is how we will get a sorted array. Now I hope by now you can at least have an idea of how the algorithm will work step by step. If you still have any concerns, I would recommend you to rewatch this video till this point, so that you can create at least an understandable idea of how the solution will work step by step, so that when we will be coding, you can easily understand, okay, this was happening. Okay, now let's jump towards the coding part. So here we have this question number 75, sort colors. The question's difficulty level is medium, so now we are stepping up our game. And now how we are going to solve this question, simply speaking, if I just scroll down, so this is the example, okay, that we have seen in the visualization. So come here, and as we discussed in the visualization, that first we are going to initialize 3 variables, P0, P1 and P2. So P1 will also be initialized at 0 position, and P2, so we initialize P2 at the very last element, okay, so at the very last index. So just come here, nums -1. Cool. Now our loop logic was such that if P1 will cross P2, we will break our loop. So what will happen, we will type while P1 is less than equal to P2 colon. Okay, so it means that when P1 will cross P2, will be greater than P2, then what will happen? Our loop will break. Okay, cool. Now, as I told you earlier that we are going to use P1 for the main traversal, so all the conditions will be applied on P1. So let's go for the first condition. If nums P1, that means that if the P1's value is equal to 0, let's say if P1 found 0, then what will happen? As discussed earlier, that we are simply going to swap whatever will be at P1 with the P0's position. So nums P1 comma nums P0 equals to nums P0. So what is happening? That nums P1, this will be swapped with the value at nums P0 and nums P1. So, and whatever will be at nums P0 will be given this nums P1. Okay, so now after that, what we will do, we will simply P1 plus equals to 1 and P0 plus equals to 1. So what will happen after this swap? What will happen? We will move P1 one step forward and we will move P0 one step forward, just like the visualization. But let's say P1 didn't found 0, so didn't find 0. So what will happen? We will simply type nums P1. Let's say P1 found 2. So what will happen? Again, we are simply going to use nums P1 nums P2. So this time we are checking. Let's say if P1 has found 2 rather than 0, so what will happen? As discussed in the visualization, we will swap whatever the P1 will be pointing towards with the value that P2 will be pointing towards. But afterwards, after this swapping, what we will do, we will move P2 one step backward. So let's say if P2 is here, so P2 will move one step backward after the swap. So first let's quickly swap it. So nums P2 nums P1 and then P2 minus equals to 1. Okay, and finally let's say if P1 has found 1, P1 has not found 0 or like 2, P1 has found 1. So what will happen? These two conditions will fail, and in the third one, what will happen? We will simply ignore it and we will increase P1 one step forward. That's it. So let's run this code, and initial test got accepted. Now you can see I haven't returned anything because the question itself says do not return anything, just modify nums in place instead. Okay, so now let's click on submit and hopefully the code will get submitted. Yes, the code has been submitted. Awesome. So all the test cases have been passed. I hope you like this video. If you have any questions regarding this solution, then feel free to reach out in the comments. If you still need some help, please feel free to discuss the concept in the comments as well. Plus, if you need if you have any feedback for me, if you want to suggest something, feel free to suggest it in the comments. I would love to read your feedback and improve myself accordingly. Thank you so much for your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video with a new question. Okay, then take care. Bye. Peace.